Medical emergencies can and do occur in a dental office. Most but not all medical emergencies are preventable. It is therefore very important that the doctor prepare the office to recognize and effectively manage those medical emergencies that might arise. There are 4 steps in preparing the dental office and staff to manage medical emergencies. Step number 1 is to ensure that the entire staff is proficient in basic life support. Step 2 is to prepare an emergency response team within the office. Step number 3 is to know when and whom to call for emergency assistance if necessary. And step number 4 is to have available and be able to use the drugs and equipment needed to handle specific medical emergencies. Basic life support training is the most important step in preparing to manage medical emergencies. Basic life support should be a requirement for every person who works in your dental office, not just those who work with patients. Not just the doctor, the hygienist, and the assistant, but everybody. This should include the receptionist, the laboratory person, whomever works in the dental office. Basic life support training should be taken by the doctor and staff in the dental office annually. Most, but not all states require dentists and hygienists to be trained in CPR in order to be licensed to practice. Most of these states require CPR training every 2 years. This is adequate for licensure, but not adequate to ensure that basic life support can be done properly when needed. Once every year, every dental office should train every employee in basic life support, as this represents the most important step in preparing for medical emergencies. The second step is to prepare an in-office emergency team. This team consists of minimally 2 people, preferably 3. Member number 1 will be the person who is first on the scene of the emergency. This may not always be the doctor. It could be the hygienist, the receptionist, or even a dental assistant. Whomever arrives first automatically becomes member number 1. Member number 1 of the team stays with the victim. Don't leave a person alone during a medical emergency unless you absolutely have to. When you realize a medical emergency exists, the first thing you do is yell for help. Then immediately implement the steps of basic life support: positioning, airway, breathing, circulation as necessary. That's member number 1. Member number 2 of the team, again, this can be anybody on the staff, is the person who, when they hear the call for help, will first get the stuff. The stuff being the oxygen cylinder, the emergency drug kit, and the automated external defibrillator, the AED, and bring them to the site of the emergency. Member number 3 is actually all the remaining members of the office staff. When the doctor arrives on the scene, he or she becomes the leader of the team. Possible tasks for other members of the team include designating someone in the office to make the phone call for 911, emergency medical services. If you work in a multi-story building, you will have one person go to the lobby of the building and await the arrival of the ambulance and escort them to the dental office. Have the elevator waiting in the lobby to save time. If other staff are available, they could assist in basic life support, monitoring vital signs, administering oxygen, prepare emergency drugs for administration, or stand in the background and record everything that is happening at that moment. So, the basic emergency team in a dental office consists of 3 people. Member number 1, the most important person, the first person on the scene, stays with the victim, calls for help, and administers basic life support as needed. Member number 2 brings the stuff, the emergency kit, oxygen, and the AED to the scene of the emergency. And member number 3 is assigned by the doctor to handle other various tasks during the emergency. The third component of preparation is to know when and whom to call for assistance if needed. Being clear on when to seek medical assistance is important and is very simple. The moment you think, the moment you feel that you need help, get it now. Don't hesitate. If you don't know what's going on, call for help. If you know what's going on and don't like it, call for help. Never hesitate. It's better to call for help right now and have the victim recover before medical assistance arrives than to think you can handle it yourself and make that telephone call too late. The doctor's legal responsibility during a medical emergency is to keep the victim alive until one of two things happen: until the victim recovers, or until somebody arrives on the scene who is better trained and takes over their management.
Truck 10, Unit 122, respond to 9 Echo 1, 43-year-old male in cardiac arrest, 2651 East 21st Street, 2651 East 21 Street at Columbia Building.
110, we copy emergency, 2500 East 21st Street, referring to cardiac arrest.
So if you can call 911 and have them arrive in the office within 6 minutes, your responsibility as a dentist will be to keep that person alive for 6 minutes, which should be possible. In some areas, however, access to emergency care may take quite a bit longer than 6 minutes. In these situations, a doctor may have 10, 15, or even 20 minutes alone with the victim before help arrives. The basic training we'll be discussing is important for this doctor. However, they must also understand that if they are in an isolated area and are likely to be without help for a prolonged amount of time, then they need more advanced training than the urban doctor, where help theoretically will be there sooner. By the way, many dentists in a medical dental building assume they can call the medical doctor from down the hall to help in a medical emergency. Usually that is not the case. These physicians are not specialists in emergency medicine, so I recommend calling 911 unless you know for a fact that the physician is well qualified in emergency management. The fourth step in our preparation is properly maintaining and understanding emergency drugs and equipment. In all honesty, this represents the least important part of our management of medical emergencies. Drugs do not save lives. Basic life support does. There is only one situation, anaphylaxis, the life-threatening allergic reaction, in which drugs must be administered by injection and as quickly as possible for the victim to have a chance of survival. But in all situations, even anaphylaxis, drug therapy will always be secondary to basic life support.